The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
This is Orioles preview. Orioles with 5 games left in the season. They'll have to win all of them to avoid a losing year. If they win all 5, they finish 81-81. 2 home games left. They play tonight against the Rays and then wrap up the series tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, and we'll finish the season on the road against the Yankees. Coverage here tonight for tonight's game begins at 6 o'clock. Last night, pitching gets it done. Dean Kramer, who was spectacular in the second half of the season, went 6 1/3. He gave up only 1 hit. He struck out 4, didn't walk anybody. His 30th performance of the year, his 30th start, and he finishes the year with a record of 11-10. He has owned the Rays, lifetime ERA of 1.64. He's 5-1 with 11 starts against the Rays. Too bad he can't start the last 2 games of the series. But last night was very, very impressive. Here is interim manager Tony Mansolino.
Yeah, it was really good. I feel like we've seen that outing 7 or 8 times this year. That same type of deal. Commanding the pitches, attacking the zone. When he got behind, was able to kind of get back in the fight a little bit and get him to put the ball in play, weak contact. It's a very nice outing for him right there.
Adley's first game back. Where do you think he is right now?
I'll say this. Our pitching guys said, I think it was the 8th or 9th inning, they made the comment about he just knows what he's doing back there. In terms of calling the game and, don't undervalue the fact that Dino just had such an efficient, clean outing the first day that Adley's back. He has become a very good catcher in this league and understanding how to get hitters out and, how to navigate multiple times through the order with our pitcher specifically, too. So thought it was a very nice game behind the plate. Liked where he's at. Give him a few days, hopefully get some bat going.
Can it be easy to take for granted a player like Kramer who maybe flies under the radar with all the innings that he gives you, but also capable of having outings like he had tonight?
Yeah, Dino's a very valuable part of this team in a lot of ways. Obviously what you see on the field, but behind the scenes too in the clubhouse as well. He's been one of the guys that has stepped up a little bit and kind of helped get us in the clubhouse. But, obviously on the field, he's a guy that, has good starts, a lot of them, eats innings. Wins big games. He's pitching in the AL East too. All these teams that he's facing in this division, they've seen him a ton here over the last 5 years. So, to see him go out against another AL East foe that's, a solid team, hasn't probably been playing their best here lately, but to still navigate it the way he did speaks volume of what Dean does.
Mansolino mentioned Adley Rutschman, who played his first game since August 17th. He'd been out with an oblique strain. He did go 0 for 4 with a strikeout, but as he mentioned, was very good behind the plate with Dean Kramer on the mound, and Kramer with a very impressive season in the books, and he's asked, how long before you can reflect on it?
It's not going to happen until at least September 29th, because the season's not over yet. But there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot to be happy about, and there's some things that were a little frustrating throughout the year. But you grow every year and try and get better.
What do you think your biggest accomplishment this year was?
Limiting the number of 3 and changes or 2 and changes and giving up a lot of damage. I think I did a much better job of, if I was giving up 4 or 5 runs a game, I was still at least getting into the 5th or 6th. And I think that's one of, definitely going into the year was one of my goals.
You get that ovation as you walk off the mound there in the 7th. What do those moments just kind of mean for you? Just getting the recognition from the fans after maybe the start you didn't want to have to start the year, but to finish it the way you did.
Sure. I mean, it's not about how you start; it's how you finish. That's what everybody remembers. So to be able to go out and have and get some cheers definitely helps.
Well, it's not always just about how you finish. It's how you start, and the bad start for the Orioles got manager Brandon Hyde fired, and the team kind of played itself out of contention by the All-Star break. They did play better in the second half of the season, which is going to bring up the question whether Tony Mansolino stays on after being the interim manager. But those early season games count, too. Yes, he did have a good finish to the season, but if everybody on the team had played better at the beginning of the year, they wouldn't be playing for, at this point, a 500 record. They'd be playing for playoff positioning and postseason and making the next step in winning a postseason game, which they have failed to do in making the playoffs the last 2 years. Colton Cowser provided the offense, by the way, last night with a home run. And one of the cool things was the reaction of two women who caught the home run ball.
I think they were the two happiest fans we've seen in the park all year.
I did not. What happened?
The young lady that actually got it had a Cowser hat on.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Shout out her.
I mean, a lot of hugging, a lot of picture taking, a lot of smiles. They seem particularly delighted that they got a home run ball from you. So you made a couple of folks' nights tonight.
Well, that's what it's all about. Come on out to Camden Yards these next 2 days and hopefully snag yourself a home run ball.
There you have it.
Well said. Hey, before we let you go, Dean Kramer tonight looked brilliant from up here. What did you see from center?
Yeah, command on both sides of the plate. I think the big thing with him is locating all of his pitches. Especially Dean's one of those guys that's not really thinking about the next pitch. He's sometimes thinking 2 pitches ahead. So even whenever he's missing with a certain location and a certain pitch, it's going to affect the next pitch that he already kind of had predetermined on what he was thinking about throwing. And I think that he executed really well tonight, and I'm happy for the season that he had.
Colton Cowser on the Masson postgame show. Yeah, a little promo there. Come out to Camden Yards next 2 games, catch a home run ball. 2 more chances. They play the Rays tonight at 6:30, and then they play their final regular season home game on Thursday, tomorrow at 1 o'clock. They'll be off the Thursday. That's right, 1 o'clock game, getaway game. Then they go to New York to finish up the season, 3-game series against the Yankees, who, by the way, clinched a playoff spot last night. So the Yankees don't have as much to play for. And the Orioles, if it's important not to finish below 500, have something to play for if they win the last 5. They will finish 500 on the year. I guess when you look back on 2025 with all the disappointment, there was the great warm moment of the 30th anniversary celebration of Cal Ripken breaking Lou Gehrig's record, September 6th. So about 3 weeks ago when they honored him at Camden Yards, he didn't make the lap around the field on his feet. He made it in a classic Corvette, but it was really a great night and great job by John Miller as master of ceremonies, and Cal talked, and it was all great. As part of the build up to that, his son, Ryan Ripken, who does a podcast, had Cal on, and they talked about how he became the Iron Man. And if you remember, coming out of high school, he was a pitcher. He pitched Aberdeen to the state championship, was drafted by the Orioles as a pitcher, but said, kind of ironically, I guess, if that's the correct term, that he wanted to play every day. He didn't want to pitch just every 5 days. And with a little assist from his dad in the Orioles organization, he got what he wanted and became a position player.
So Dad was really smart because he knew that there was a couple angles in which he could play, for his own son. And he brought this up. He said, we've had many kids that have had good arms, and they could be possibly pitchers or they could be regular players. And we've had really good success starting them as regular players, and if they don't work out that way, we can always go back to pitching. But we haven't had any success starting them at pitching, and if that doesn't work out, you can't go back to being a regular player. You miss too much time in your development as a hitter. So I thought that was an artful way of positioning the thought process, at least for the Orioles brass and the general manager and the farm director and the scout that scouted me. It positioned it to give me a choice. And ultimately, Hank Peters said, Cal, what do you want to do? And that's when I said, appropriately, that pitchers only get to play 1 out of every 5 games. I want to play every day.
I know I probably have heard most of the stories, but do you have a moment with Pop, as I called him, senior, that you remembered from going into pro ball? Like, is there a specific moment? Because you knew that you were probably going to go the pro ball route. I remember hearing the story about you never really looked at colleges.
Well, I was lucky to have, a dad that had experience in it. And he had been around many players. And he said, you really can't tell about a player, at least look at his potential, until he's around 16. When he comes into manhood a little bit, you start to see what his potential could be. And he saw in me, at 16 years old, he said, you're going to have a chance to play pro ball. And so once he said that to me, I set my sights on playing ball. I wouldn't say I ignored college requests, but it wasn't I never went and looked at a college. I never thought that that was my path. in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I need a college education as a backup. If I don't make it in baseball, then, and we got our contract to say that with the Orioles, that if I wanted to go back and go to college at any point in my life, I think we worded it kind of that way, that the Orioles would have to pay for it, and they agreed. So maybe at almost 65, I might go back to college and and ask the Orioles to pay for it.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like Rodney Dangerfield back to school, 65-year-old Cal, a freshman. Well, the Orioles do have to pay for it, but no, I don't think that's going to happen. And the last thing from the conversation, and this is the dad influence, that it was probably the dad that fueled the streak more than anything else, as Cal related something that happened to him when he was playing A-ball.
I do remember in A-ball once I called him up. I got hit with a pitch. My arm was sore. I wasn't swinging the bat too well. I was feeling sorry for myself. Dad, I'm thinking about, maybe I should take 3 or 4 days off, maybe heal up a little bit and have a new starting point mentally. What do you think about that? And Dad said, what are you going to do when the guy that replaces you tonight gets 3 hits? What do you think the manager is going to want to do with that guy tomorrow night? And I said, he's going to play him. And he said, yeah. He goes, don't let that guy get 3 hits.
That didn't happen. He stayed on the field. Pretty incredible stuff. So that is that for Orioles preview. We're going to talk next to Ben Mcdonald, one of the analysts for the team, as we move forward on a season that didn't work out the way they hoped it would, but better things next year. We'll get to Ben Mcdonald next. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
Orioles Review with Andy Pollin on ESPN 630 is presented by Sprinkler Fitters, Local Union 669. Saving lives and protecting property for over 100 years.
Coverage varies by plan. View contracts and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
This is Orioles preview. Orioles continue their series with the Rays tonight at Camden Yards. Coverage here on ESPN 630 gets underway at 6 o'clock. We're joined by Ben Mcdonald, one of the analysts for the Orioles on television, does a phenomenal job and has made a really nice recovery. Didn't you fall out of a deer stand a couple of months ago?
Andy, yes, I'm embarrassed to say that I did. It was about, 6 weeks ago, I guess it was. And, the good Lord had his hands on me is all I'm going to tell you. I fell 25 feet, man, and landed straight on my back, apparently. I don't remember a thing about the day. I had a severe concussion. My uncle was there and saw me fall and, it knocked me out for like 3 minutes, and all I came out of it was a severe concussion and 3 cracked vertebrae, man. So I got super lucky for sure, So I'm glad I didn't miss a day of work. Got right back after it again, and it's been good. I'm healing up fine. Everything's good.
That's great. I got to figure you were in a deer stand before you were on a pitching mound, right?
That's probably about right. Yeah. I mean, it's just something. I mean, when I tell people all the time, when you're born in Louisiana, you get 2 things when you're born. You get an LSU T-shirt and you get a shotgun to go hunting with. I mean, that's what you get. And my dad, my grandfathers, all of them grew up big outdoorsmen hunting. I've always been intrigued by the outdoors. It's kind of my getaway place. It's kind of my safe place, if you will, my relaxing place to just kind of get out. It's not so much about harvesting or taking something. It's just being in the outdoors, and it's peaceful and it's quiet, no cell phones and all that. So that's kind of how I've recharged my batteries in the off season a little bit.
Yeah, well, you have made a much better recovery from a bad situation than the Orioles have this year. And I wonder how you would explain, just what happened in a season where there was supposed to be a step up after making the playoffs 2 straight years and clearly a step back.
Yeah, it's baseball. I mean, I don't know how to explain it to people. It's really weird how certain things happen. And I think, in a normal year, if it had been 3 or 4 years ago, nobody says anything about this. But because the Orioles had won the most games in the American League the last 2 years going into this year, expectations of potentially winning the AL East, all those things, a young core that was coming around. And then, and look, we can't make excuses about injuries all the time, but this is mostly because of injury. It really is. I mean, when you have 70 different players that play on your big league team in 1 year, that tied the all-time major league record. It just goes to show you how injured the Orioles have been. If you think about it, there's only been 3 players on the whole 26-man roster to begin the year that wasn't on the IL. That's Dean Kramer, Sagano, and Jackson Holiday. That's the only three guys that did not visit the IL. And even Dean Kramer, because of a sore forearm, had to miss a start, just one. So Sagano and Jackson Holiday, the only two that answered the ball, answered the bell every time their name was called, And so it's been that kind of year. Plus, it's been some underperforming too. Even the guys that were healthy got off to some slow starts, and it just kind of snowballed, And, what we've learned this year is baseball is very fragile. And just when you think you have it figured out, you don't, And there's a lot of teams. I mean, look at the Mets and what they're doing with the payroll that they have right now. I mean, you go around the league. I mean, the Tigers had a 15.5 game advantage, over Cleveland. Here we go. Cleveland's done passed those guys up, and the Tigers are in jeopardy of, not making the playoffs. Now they sit in the third wild card spot, and so it's a crazy game, man. That's the only way I can explain it. But to your point, it has been very frustrating. I think some things need to change with the Orioles. I think they got to hit it hard. I mean, Mike Elias has his hand full. We know that this offseason because he's got to find a GM. He's got to find a potential manager, although Tony Mancino is really growing on me here in the last month or so. You got to remake the bullpen. For me, the Orioles need a top rotation guy and maybe even another guy, another starter, and of course you got to remake your bullpen and find a closer too. So there's a lot on the table for the Orioles this year, and you got to spend the money, you got to spend it wisely, and you got to hope it pays off at the end of the day. But money doesn't always buy you success, man. Ask the Mets, right? I mean, the Mets have spent as much money as anybody the last 2 or 3 years, it feels like, and they don't have anything to show for it. And I feel like they're in jeopardy of not even making the playoffs this year. I mean, they're kind of sitting in that last wild card spot, one game up on, I think, the Diamondbacks and the Reds right now. So money doesn't guarantee you anything. You got to have some good fortune on your side.
Okay. Are we back? Yeah, we're good. Benny, are you still with us? I mean, you talk about things that can go wrong, that do go wrong. We just had an EBS test in the middle of your answer. So I'm very sorry.
Yeah, you just never know. You never know.
Yeah, very sorry about that. I mean, to the point, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about real quickly is you came up with the Why Not Us Orioles in 1989. Team lost 107 games year before, finished 12 games under 500, stayed in the race till the final weekend. And you talk about momentum. Did you guys think going into 1990, man, the momentum we gained at the end of 89, that's going to propel us? And then you wind up with 2 seasons where you finish, out of it. Is that kind of relate to what happened this year?
I think in some ways. Now the Orioles made the playoffs the 2 previous years, obviously, in 23 and 24, and so it was a little bit different. Of course, we didn't have wild cards, back then. But I think I always say this about players and teams. Every team and every player wants to get off and get out of the gates quickly in the month of April, right? And everybody, no matter what your situation is, whether you're going to the playoffs or you're not, you would like to finish strong to gain personal, information and gain personal pride in what you did and really, build momentum personally and as a team going into the next season. And I think that's where the Orioles are right now. And look, it's been a tough go. It's a tough start. And when you trade 8 players away like they did, and a lot of it was their veteran guys, it's tough. But I mean, I said it last night on the air. I mean, the Orioles now have clinched a winning month this month, in the month of September. They're 13-7, so that's 3 out of the last 4 months they've had winning months. Mm-hmm. And what we found out in baseball, you could have one bad month, but you can't have 2. And the Orioles had a rough start to the season, obviously, and then the month of May was the tough month for the Orioles. They really backed up in the month of May, went 9-18. But then since then, look, they've been a 500 team since the All-Star break. And they're 31-31 since the All-Star break. Under Tony Mancino, 4 games over 500. So yes, even with trading some players away, they've had their head above water in some ways, And I think this is a learning year for everybody, not only just the fan base, the players, the general manager, everybody involved. Baseball is a fragile game, man. And every year you just got to get out there and get after it and hope for the best, And I don't have a problem with the way this team's competed. They've gone out and they've competed. It just hasn't been the Orioles' year. It just hasn't been. And health has been a big part of that. And what we know now is you've got to stay healthy or mostly healthy. And I think hopefully the Orioles have the bad luck from 2 years ago and from this past year behind them with the health issue, and it's going to be a good, mostly healthy year in 2026.
I need a minute on this. Former pitcher, the robo-ump is coming in next season. Major League Baseball announced that yesterday. As a former pitcher, your reaction to that?
Yeah, look, I mean, a lot's been made about the umpiring calls. We had it in spring training this year. I actually liked it. Now, I don't want to see where there's 25 or 30 pitches being protested every game, right? But if it's a handful of guys, we wouldn't look at AAA numbers because it's been in AAA for a while. There's only been about 8 challenges per game. Each challenge takes about 12 seconds to do. And so I don't think it's going to prolong the game in any way. But, I think teams are going to have a strategy to that. Obviously, with nobody on and 2 out in the first inning and you get a marginal call as a batter, I don't think you're going to, want to see a replay of that. But in the big moments of the ball game, second and third, 2 out, umpire rings you up on a ball, I think there's going to be some challenges going on there with runners on second and third. So I think it's going to be a strategy involved. Of course, if you get your challenge right, it's kind of like your replay. You get another challenge along the way. And so there'll be a lot of strategy involved in it. But I think it's good for the game. I really think some big moments, some umpires miss some balls. Either way, either for the pitcher or for the hitter, it's missed either way. And so I think it's going to be good for the game, especially in the playoffs and those kind of things.
I agree. And it changed tennis completely with the Quest Tech, so I think it's going to be. And, it's like I said earlier, it's the end of next year, we'll say, how do we ever live without it, kind of like the pitch clock. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Pitch clock, and started with the runner out at second base during COVID, you know, and, in extra inning ball games. I didn't really like that at first, but now I've grown into that. I kind of like the way that finishes as well, and so, yeah, the game's changed a little bit, man, and I think they're making it for the better, and fans wanted the game to speed up a little bit, and that's what they give. I think the average big league game is about 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2:43 right now, which is a good number. It's a really good number.
Absolutely. Great to talk to you. Glad you're feeling good, and we'll catch up next season. Thanks, Ben.
Yes, sir. Take care.
That's Ben Mcdonald, a great pitcher with the Orioles, once the number 1 pick of the draft out of LSU, and survived a deer stand fall of 25 feet. Pretty good. All right, I want to thank Ben for coming on. Thanks to Isaac Kuhn Harris for running the show. Thanks to all of you who listened. Bram is coming up next. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m.